Good morning, everyone. I will call our meeting to order. It's lovely to see you all here on this nice October morning. I will call on our chair, Julie Hill, not our chair, I'm sorry. I will call on our committee clerk, Julie Hale, to do the roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair. Regional Chair Redmond, maybe you're online there.
Present.
Thank you. Member Grant. Member Griffiths.
Present.
Councillor Foxton. Present. Member Martin. Present. Councillor Nowak. Present. Member Palmer. Present. Chair Salonen.
Present.
And Councillor Shantz.
I would like to acknowledge the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Shawanotan peoples. We recognize the enduring presence of Indigenous peoples on this land, and we honor their historic and ongoing contributions to our community. We will now consider a motion to go into closed session. May I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Nowak. All those in favor? And that carries. We will reconvene an open session a little bit later. All right, I think we have everyone here, so I'd be looking for a motion to reconvene and open, please. Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Shantz. All those in favor, and that's carried. And I need to get on the correct page here. All right. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest today? Seeing none, we will proceed into our reports. Our first one is 6.1, and this is the library budget with resolution. And I will call on Nicole Neal, our Director of Corporate Finances, to introduce this report.
Hi all. Thanks for your time today on this important 2026 Regional Waterloo Library budget. This budget is where we set our guiding financial principles that will help us carry out our plans. Our business plan for 2026 is set out in a separate report that we will cover next, so I'm just here to talk about the financial side. In general, we've set this budget keeping affordability and efficiency top of mind. The library has put forward a very conservative budget that focuses on maintaining the excellent services that are delivered today. The proposed net property tax levy is $3.4 million, an increase of $178,000 from last year. Residents would see this as a 4.3% net tax increase on their bill. The adjustments on operating expenses were very minor year over year. We had cost of living updates for existing staff. That's aligning all the union and benefit contracts that have happened during the year into the existing staff. So that was $86,000. We also had an annualization of a part-time staffing change from the 2025 budget. That was $28,000. We had two financial changes. One was inflation, which is aligned to CPI, $39,000, nothing out of the ordinary there. And we also had a provincial funding change of $25,000. That was a grant that we thought we would get, and we haven't received it. It just didn't exist, so we've pulled that out of there just to be more accurate in what we actually expect. On the capital side, we have just under $2 million worth of investments planned over the next 10 years, with $465,000 of that coming in this year. The major project that we have in that capital plan for this year is the replacement of the library headquarter roof, which has a total value of $435,000, which was a little bit more than you would have seen in the prior budget because we had higher than expected construction bids and inflation on those construction bids. Our reserves continue to be positive throughout the horizon and showing good, prudent financial management. Overall, this budget puts forward continued financial discipline and continues to deliver the great services that the library puts forward for our community members. The strategic oversight of this committee will ensure that we continue to do so. And with that, I can open the floor to questions.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Questions? Member Griffiths.
Just by way of clarification, who owns the actual library headquarters building?
So through you, Chair, the library headquarters building is owned by the region. That's one. All of the actual branches are owned by the townships, and the library headquarters is owned by the region.
But insofar as the region being the landlord, is there not expectations that any upgrades to the building that is within their portfolio is their responsibility? Why is this on the library budget? I'm asking, I'm newer to this item and awareness of how this is structured. Thank you.
So through you, Chair, just taking a step back, in general, when our tangible capital assets, like our buildings, are owned by the different levels of government, and whoever has ownership of that building is responsible for the general maintenance of the structure. So because we own the headquarters, building is assigned to the regional ownership. We are responsible for maintaining the structure, which includes the roof, which is why it comes through the library funding.
Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Isn't that a direct contradiction to what we were told as committee, that if our buildings needed work, that we would actually have to pay for it? So if the region owns it, if the roof and air needed to be repaired, the township would have to pay for it. So if you own the headquarters, why does not the region have to pay for it? Why do we have to pay for both what we own and what you own?
I'm just going to quickly jump in, Nicole. You can add additional, but keeping in mind, library budget is still part of the region. So it is township dollars, but it is of the library portion because it's the library that utilizes that headquarters.
But if I may, but the monies to repair the buildings of the libraries, not under the region. This is a regional building. If it's true for us, then it must be true for the region. It's only fair. If we own the building, we have to replace it under taxpayer dollars from the townships. But if the region owns it, then why shouldn't they have to pay for it? Why are we paying for a regional building as well as the taxpayers' building? And don't forget that we also paid for all the renovation and upkeep of this building as well.
Yes, but it's coming from the regional port. So in like the pie chart of if you're looking at where all your tax dollars go, there's the township tax dollars that stay in our municipalities for the townships. Then there's the regional portion. It's coming out of that regional portion. So it is still monies collected from the region. The reason that it's coming through the library is that no other, like the three cities don't utilize the headquarters. So we wouldn't make their taxpayers pay for it, I think is the justification. But Nicole, you can chime in if you have something to add. And Councillor Shantz also after, but did you have anything additional to add?
I think you did a great job, Chair, explaining that. You're correct. Like I was trying to say, the asset, whoever owns the asset, those are the monies that have to be used for repair for the structure, and we pre-plan that. So we set aside this money in our reserve we've been saving up to do this roof replacement.
Councillor Shantz.
Okay. I guess my question in line with Councillor Foxton's question then is are all the repairs and even the purchase of that property taken from the library? So from the, is it all area rated, I guess is my question.
Through you, Chair, yes, all of the money represented here is all area rated.
Specifically for the admin building?
Correct. Yes. Yes, everything shown here, which includes the roof and the lighting updates and all of those, all comes from the library reserve, which is saved from the part of the tax levy that is area rated to the townships.
So
everything is paid for by the townships for the township's use.
Thank you for that. I guess the building itself, when it was purchased, and this, I don't even know how long far back this goes, but has it been area rated, everything to do with that building?
Through the chair. So I did look back. This was many years ago when the building was a regional building for a different use, and then which was like over 20 years ago, I think. What that? and that's when it was then converted as the headquarters. And I think if I'd look back on the logic behind it, you know, you could think of it as like leasing a building. When you, if somebody else owned it, you would lease that building, you'd pay lease costs. And then in most cases, you're in charge of leasehold improvements. So we're not charging a lease rate to this budget, but what we're doing is the costs related to maintaining the building are being charged directly to the budget.
Okay, so if I can just close the loop on that, unless you want to jump in. Yeah. So the building was used for regional purposes, and at some point decided that we needed a headquarters for library, and that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a similar situation about 7 or 8 years ago when our library operations required an expansion of that building. And we planned that expansion and funded it entirely from the reserve. So this is entirely consistent with the way that we've treated the ongoing maintenance and expansion of that building up to this point.
Additional questions? Yes, Member Griffiths.
Again, by way of clarification, you have a line of professional fees and services, $261,000. Can you give me some clarification of what that line represents and what it funds? Sorry. Again, I'm just seeking clarification on that.
Through the chair, we're just we're looking that up to make sure that we have a fulsome, complete answer just for that for you. But what I would say is that is generally where our contracted license fees are, stuff like that, professional services. So I just have Carol pulling details. So if we could take the next question and maybe I'll circle back.
Well, I have a second one. If maybe
Go ahead.
I can table, and that has to do with AODA. I know there's legislative requirements on that front, and I was curious why there seems to have been more of that pushed to the 2027 year rather than 2026. Is there an explanation for that?
I'll start the answer, but then I'll look to library staff if there's anything you want to add on. Like there's a bit of a pacing going on here. Like there's only so much work that the library staff can accomplish each year. We wanted to have a very realistic expectation of when those things can be expected with the proper priorities of our resource time going into the right things. So hopefully I've represented you well, but feel free to add on.
Just I'm conscious of the priority this area is supposed to receive, I suppose. I don't know the legislation well, but thank you for whatever you can tell me.
Are there staff with additional comments on the AODA plan?
I really don't have anything additional to add to that. We've been working on AODA work in 2025, but yeah, we're just trying to pace ourselves, I guess, and the bigger ticket items are in 2027. And there's also some things that are included in both the branch retrofits for 2026 that might cover off some of the accessibility items.
Yeah, thank you. I wondered if there were some prerequisites to certain projects, but is that what you're inferring? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Regier.
Yeah, thank you. What I could suggest is that we bring back, perhaps either through an email or through a response in the next meeting, a detailed description of the work that we've got planned for AODA. Because I note in the budget that there are some of these include washroom, upgrades and that sort of thing, which probably require some planning work. I really am not in the loop on the details of the renovations that are required. But what I'd suggest is we put together a bit of additional information with our facilities team and then send an email back out.
Thank you. That's great.
And with that, perhaps if staff could include when we believe we will be AODA compliant, as we know. Granted, I appreciate nobody's met the timeline that's already passed, but the timeline has technically passed of the legislation. Councillor Sean.
Thank you. If I can go down a couple of different rabbit holes for a moment. I wonder if you could just remind us of, I believe we're drawing down the reserve for operating. Can you remind us of how we were going to move forward with that? Because it seems to be increasing, and I thought it was going to be decreasing.
Yep, through you, Chair. So we did, we made a pull the last few years, I believe, from the reserve to operating, just to continue, our levels of service without having to increase the tax levy that we're drawing from our residents. So this, in 2025, we had a draw of 100,000. We've kept that the same for 2026, draw of 100,000. And then the plan in the reserve forecast in Appendix D shows that we decreased that by 25,000 a year over the next 4 years, so that by 2030 we are no longer drawing on that reserve for operating. So it's a nice slow reduction over time. We are not getting into any trouble with that reserve. We're staying positive throughout the entire 10-year span. So I think that's still a prudent approach to maintaining our services. And I can answer the previous question on professional fees and services if you would like to have that one brought up. Sorry to interrupt.
I think Councillor Shantz has a follow-up, and then we can go to that.
Perfect.
Thank you. When I look at Appendix B, there's 2 lines for contribution from reserves. So just plain contribution from reserves. The budget amount is not decreasing. Well, I guess it decreased from 25 to 26, so it's decreasing a little bit. But contribution from RDC reserves seems to be going up. What's the difference? And can you put that into the context of what you just told me?
The contribution to reserve line decreased from 198 to 113, so it decreased by 85,000. That's basically money that was being used from the ready funds. So there's a corresponding decrease in the expense side on the professional fees and services. So this was one-time money that we were getting from equity. So the expense, so that money was being used in 2025, therefore the budget came out on the expense line, and also the contribution to reserves.
Net zero then on that line?
Yes, net zero, yeah.
Okay.
And I would say that the RDC, that is basically being used for books. So there's a contribution from the RDC towards books. It was just a slight increase.
So where do I see the piece that's the decreasing $25,000 a year? Where's that line?
Through the chair on Appendix D in the reserve fund.
Okay. So it doesn't show up in the operating budget?
You won't, because it's future years. So you'll see the link of the 100,000 this year to Appendix B. So you'll see that 113,000 contribution from reserves in 2026 budget in the green. That's the same 100,000.
But it would show up somewhere in operating, wouldn't it?
Correct. So on Appendix D, you can see the overtime, the decrease, which is what you'd asked about. The 2026 amount of 113,000, you can see on Appendix D as the contributions to the operating budget and 10% of growth related to library holdings. Those are the 2 amounts, the 113 that link to Appendix B. And I'm happy to walk over and show you after the meeting if that's helpful to point the numbers together.
If you could just tell me what line it is in Appendix B, that would be great.
So in Appendix B, on the line contributions from reserves that has the note B3 beside it, you can see the 2026 budget amount is 113,000. In the green, the last green column to the right, 113. And if you go to Appendix D, the first page of Appendix D, the second red line says contributions to operating budget in 2026 of 100,000. And then the next line, 10% of growth related to library holdings, is the other 13. So you add that 113 together, and that's how they link.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
And we can go back to the other
back to,
answer,
so
please.
Back to Appendix D, we had a question of what is included in the professional fees and services for $261,000 in the 2026 budget. For the most part, these seem to be contractual items related to maintenance. So our janitorial contract is $100,000 of that 261, for example. We have snowplow, landscaping, and book processing in there for another. Between those four things, it's about 70% of that number. So it's a contractual services that we are using external providers for. No worries.
Yes, Member Martin.
Again, with regards to the capital reserve, it goes from 1.2 million to about 19,000 over 10 years. Are we comfortable with that? And it seems the only contribution towards that is in expected surpluses. So that's not a very strong source for it. So I don't, if I have a question, I have more of a concern, and should we do something about it, and what would we do?
Through you, Chair, and thank you for the question. So our current policy and the policy that has been maintained over the last 20-ish years of experience sitting at the table has been that the only contributions to the library reserve are surpluses. They've been running a small surplus every year. I feel like what I can say is the balance in the next few years is very comfortable for the plans. It would be at the discretion of this committee if we'd like to change our contribution policy. It would require us to decrease service in order to save more or put a contribution away to the reserves each year from the library budget. It's definitely a change that committee could ask us to look at. That's just a policy that we have.
I can speak to that because it was one of the questions I also had, and more so just a question from the drawing operational to reserves. And I understand that you're saying that we're comfortable doing that. I guess I have a sour taste from Wilmot finances that drawing from reserves to offset operational doesn't put you in a good position. And I guess I'm more so concerned that we're raising clearly our services because our budget is going up, and it's not only by cost of living that it's going up. We're going up by, 5.6%. So we're increasing different services. I just feel this is making it unsustainable because at some point it's going to have to be offloaded onto the tax base. And we're just artificially making it. I get your point of that it's a nice gradual release, but I also don't see, because in my time on council, I've never seen that we just suddenly stop doing services or reduce services. That to me is more so concerning from a policy end of how we're planning on using our funds. And then, yes, by our contributions only being by surplus, again, to me, that would be, one, we're budgeting and that we're expecting there to be a surplus to then feed back into versus just saying, a 1% goes towards capital contributions or something like that. So I just more so had questions for the whole committee that does kind of stem along your lines of policy-wise, how do we actually want to be governing our finances? Again, I have a sour taste from Wilmot experience, but I don't want to see the libraries wind up that way. And right now it's great that we're comfortable, but I don't want somebody in 20 years saying, what on earth was this group doing from not being sustainable? So those were kind of questions I had about that. But Councillor Foxton?
And I totally agree with you. We do need to put something aside for reserves because stuff happens that we need it. And at the time that we need it, if it's not there, we can't go to the taxpayer and say, pay another tax outside of the drum to cover it. So I agree with you. I agree also that every year we should be putting in 0.5 or 1% towards our reserves every single year. Disappointing that hasn't happened, but I also would like to examine whether we need all the expenses that we've got in this budget for this year, for the next year, 2026.
Councillor Sean?
I agree with you in terms of reserves. You can get away with using surplus to a certain point. And then if you budget tighter and tighter and tighter, you start to get into trouble. I guess I would ask, do we have sort of a comfortable or an expectation of an upper limit on that reserve? And are we close to it at all? Because if we are, then I'm kind of reluctant to budget into it, especially when we have been seeing surpluses. But I get where you're going. Do we have a policy at all?
Through the chair, there is no current set guidance on a lower limit or an upper limit for this library reserve. So all I can tell you is based on our current capital plan and our plan to use this money to support operating over the next 4 to 5 years, we are comfortable. We will not draw down or empty in the next 5 years, so we have some runway. If we want to look at doing some policy change there, that is something we could look at. I would recommend for the 2027 budget cycle so that council has enough time to consider fully and completely what you'd like to do. I could, at council's direction, bring a report back with some ideas.
Okay. Commissioner Regier wanted to jump in.
Yeah, thank you. I was essentially going to make the same point as Ms. O'Neill has. I think, Ms. Neal, sorry. If I might suggest, the natural alignment here is between the business plan for the library, that is, how we want the library to evolve over time, what our priorities are and that sort of thing, and the capital budget. So what I think we could do is ask staff to put this on the agenda for the next business plan. And because we're in a relatively comfortable spot right now in terms of the reserve, it's not an absolutely pressing issue, but I agree that there is a long-term sustainability issue that we need to consider. So if we do some thinking about what the priorities are, looking out to 10 years and beyond in the next business plan, then in response to the vision for the library that the committee has established, then we can build a capital program that would be would support that perhaps in the next year's budget and in subsequent years. You'll see that we are suggesting making a few changes, like, for example, reducing the drawdown on the reserve over time. We can also make some suggestions in terms of increasing a contribution that's not related directly to our surpluses. The final point I would make on this is that the surpluses generally accrue because of gapping, because we have periodically vacancies which take time to be filled, and that's almost a statistical reality. It's when you have so many staff, then periodically people will leave for other opportunities, and then there will be vacancies, and it takes us several months to fill those positions, and so that's generally the source of the surpluses, which we then put into the reserve. And while it's almost impossible to explicitly budget for that, it is pretty consistent. So my own expectation would be that there will be surpluses in the future and that they will continue to contribute to the reserve. We just haven't put them in here.
Councillor Shaw.
How are we tracking for this year? Does it, excuse me, does it look like there will be a surplus?
Yeah, I believe we are forecasting about 85,000 favorable.
Yes, Member Griffith.
I noticed that it highlights that there's a figure that's quoted of $80.29 is the impact of library costs on households out of this new budget. I just wonder how that compares with other libraries within the region or outside. I realize we have more rural population perhaps in some of the townships, but I'm just curious of how the 80.29 figure, which is meant to incorporate, if I read this correctly, meant to incorporate the new budget.
So through the chair, I don't believe we collect that statistic from other library operations, but we could have a look. Come back.
I'm sorry, I did, you're
He was
proposing
saying-
to bring it back at a later?
We'd have to bring it back. It's not a comparator that we currently collect.
Oh, I see, okay. Thank you.
I could be wrong, but I thought that that was a part of the large, like, library comparator report, whether or not we use that data.
The library
ourselves.
comparative part does tell us like where we stand in terms of expenses, and we're among the most efficient and sort of low cost per unit, but we don't have cost per household from that.
Okay.
If I might, Jillian, do we have cost per capita? I mean, I think we have a couple of surrogate numbers that could respond to that and that have been presented.
We can get
in-
closer. We just don't have a cost per household.
Right, so it's the household issue, the question. So that, I think if what we can do is we can take a look at discerning that number from some of the related data. It'll take a little bit of work, but on a cost per capita basis, which is a reasonable surrogate in my mind, what would you, how would our figures compare?
Generally, when we look at cost efficiency across the comparators, we're amongst the most efficient. I would have to look at the latest set of numbers to see exactly like what place we fall in, but usually we're in the bottom 2 or 3 in terms of cost per transaction.
And just to clarify, when you're saying transaction, like you're talking about an individual who actually goes into our branch and does something
If you look
that's
at like
recorded?
per circulation, right? So if we're looking at what our dollar cost per book circulated is,
Per book, even though we provide a lot of other services beyond books.
well, it's per circulation of item, yeah.
Okay. Is that actually the question that you were asking, Member Griffiths, or were you asking inclusive of the entire budget spread out per populace, what that looks like?
Well, I believe the number that's now quoted is spread out over, that's the total budget spread out over the number of households in the affected townships. So I was just asking for whether there were comparators, so I could put that in context of.
Right. But not per item circulated. You were asking the entire budget spread out, what those comparators then are to
Yeah,
other
the actual
jurisdictions.
tax effect per
Yeah.
residence or household.
So is that clear for staff for bringing back information?
Yes.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments on the budget or 10-year capital items? Chair Redmond, I don't know if you are still with us online or not. Okay, it seems like Chair Redmond has left the meeting. Yes. Mayor Shawns,
right?
Councillor, but
Sandy even works. And I'm not going back to look where I saw this, but I think I read that somewhere in the reports that there was no dollar increase for the increase in service hours because the staffing was already there. Did I misread that, or is that a true statement?
To the chair, I think there is an annualized increase for, I think it's $26,000 or $28,000 for staffing. So
Okay.
there is a small increase for additional hours.
Okay, I'm not sure what I read then, because I kind of gave my head a shake when I read it, so thank you for that.
not seeing any other questions at the moment. I did have a few, mainly on Appendix A. I just wanted to understand what exactly is the difference between annualization versus the COLA benefit versus the inflation element, because to me, all of those are increases due to cost of living. I'm assuming the COLA and benefits, that seems to be employee directed, but how is that different from the other two budget items of annualization and inflation that you're adding?
So through the chair, the annualization is the extra part-time FTE that started in 2025 as related to additional service hours. So because they started partway through the year, this is the full effect of the full year for that person. That's the annualization. The COLA and benefits, that's existing staff, increases to contract price, aligned to the rest of the organization. There's no decision-making there. And inflation is all of our other contracts. So not related to staffing, but things like how much we pay for janitorial, how much we pay to heat the buildings, that sort of thing, aligned to CPI. So again, there's no change in who we're using, the type of the type of work we're doing. It's straight up just the price of the same service has gone up year over year.
I get that. My brain is having issues in reconciling that is 5.6%. And I get that there's the 25% or $25,000 of the provincial funding that apparently doesn't exist. But I guess I'm still having issues wrapping my head around, and the annualization is fine. I guess it's the COLA and benefits and the inflation element that is proportionally more than what is being reported as cost of living. And also, I guess, understanding, are the contracts that we're currently dealing with the best for what we're receiving?
So I think you have two questions there. So let me just take a step back and through you, Chair. So the COLA and benefit increase, the 86,000 is on our entire staffing complement. So on Appendix B, you can see our total staffing complement is $2.6 million. So 86,000 on 2.6 million is the increase, right? So it's a low percentage over a lot, a big pool. I believe that in total it's about a 4% increase for staff year over year. That's with some benefit rates. For example, our disability rate went up 17%. So there's a mix of things under here. This doesn't mean that staff will see, huge pay swings or anything like this. This are things outside of our control to meet the agreed upon benefits that we are providing our staff. There's no change to those benefits. It's just what the provider is telling us they cost now. And the compensation side aligns with what the union negotiated, and very small on the management side. And then I think your second part of your question, so that's the staffing side. So same number of people as last year. One part-time person started halfway through the year, so now we have the full year cost. We have the outside of our control, but the contracted price of staff compensation and of the benefits with no change in the benefits that are being offered. We have that increase. And then on our side, take, for example, janitorial services, we contract those out. They're growing aligned to the inflation rate of between 2 and 4%, depending on what rate you look at. How do we know that our contracts are the best price that they can be? We follow the purchasing bylaw that the region has that tries to ensure that. So we have to go to tender regularly, get market updates, try to make sure we have the most competitive offers as possible. So we are following all of those policies, and what is in the budget reflects our best information today.
Is it possible for us to get the COLA and the benefits portioned out differently? Because also I would see COLA, in my opinion, is different than a negotiated unionized increase amount. And I want to better understand that. Or are you saying that I guess I really just would like to understand what unions even our staff for the libraries in particular deal with. I'm going off of the information that the regional council gets, and we get a heck of a lot more information for a lot more staff. So I would like to see those numbers really broken down if possible, please.
Yeah, so we can take that away. We'll have to come back with a closed report for you with that level of detail. So we can do that for sure for the next committee.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments then, committee? Yes, Foxton.
So through you, Chair, should you wish this to come back, are we deferring this till the November meeting then for when we get the full picture?
That's where my preference would sit, but it
Okay,
is up
so-
to the committee.
Yeah, I would move to defer till November.
Okay, moved by Councillor Foxton. Is there a seconder for that? Maybe not. Was that a second? Okay, seconded by Councillor Shantz. Any comments or questions on that? Yes, Councillor Shantz.
Sorry, and what specifically are we waiting for?
The information
That Natasha, okay.
But to that effect, I think that there were other questions that were waiting for information to come back that I also, at least personally, was interested in knowing before approving the budget. Is there any other information that committee wants to see come back for that meeting? Councillor Foxton?
Just to refresh our memories, could you please send out a list of what you're asking and anyone else so that we have it all at one time?
Sorry, who are you asking that to
I
explicitly?
guess the members of committee.
Members of committee, or just give me one moment, please.
Of course.
In terms of what's been said in this meeting, as the clerk is taking minutes, she will be able to circulate that to us, but if there are additional items, you can email the clerk if you didn't see represented what you thought you had said. Okay, with that, so we do have a motion on the floor. Just turn your microphone on, please, Joe.
When is it deferred till? That's the next meeting?
Till our next meeting, which is November the 13th, I believe? 14th.
Will that impact any discussions on the regional budget?
Regional budget won't have been passed yet, but Nicole, if you...
Yeah, just through you, Chair, for the regional budget, the library goes, recommended from this committee, goes forward in December. So November would be fine for you to take that time.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor of the deferral? Those opposed? It's carried. It still got carried. Okay, and on to our next report then, which is 6.2, and I will call on Julian Kingston, our Director of Cultural Services, to introduce this report, and it's the business plan.
Thank you, through the chair. So we're bringing back the business plan for a second look and approval today. This is the business plan for 2026 and really aligns with the library service delivery plan, both of which we reviewed with committee and with township staff. Like the service plan, the business plan has 5 main areas that it's focused on. So welcoming spaces, service excellence, diverse collections, dynamic programs, and evolving technology. There are 2 additional areas of focus for the business plan, which include library governance and advocacy and awareness. The projects within the plan, with the exception of some of the ready initiatives, are all included in the draft budget. There are some ready initiatives that we have a separate budget asked for, but they're currently unfunded. All the projects require staff time for research, coordination, and implementation. In most cases, this doesn't involve additional financial pressure on the staffing budget. However, we are looking at a small increase on the training budget to help realize some of these projects. Projects within welcoming spaces focus area include new interior branch signage, accessibility upgrades to the main library branches, and branch improvements such as new furnishing or art installations. These projects are within the library's 10-year capital plan. Projects within service excellence focus on the focus area include adjustments to branch open hours, building staff expertise to deliver a desk help to the public, and researching and developing a home and community outreach service. Within the diverse collections section, projects include building staff capacity in the promotion of collections and exploring the expansion of unique collections. Under dynamic programs, we have the exploration of a community outreach pilot project. We're looking to strengthen in collaboration within community services within municipalities and local organizations, and also to enhance program delivery and meet community needs and interests. For evolving technology, we have a microfilm digitization project and looking at the exploration of mobile printing services. Under the library governance focus area, we're looking to create a board legacy document to help with succession planning, as well as preparation for personnel changes in library committee through the delivery member training. Under advocacy and awareness, we're looking at publishing another annual report card for 2025 and building brand recognition through marketing initiatives and continuing the delivery of ready initiatives. In terms of financial implications, we are looking to increase the staff training budget from 5,000 in 2025 to 8,000 in 2026, mostly to support training needs for test tech services and enhance staff capacity for their promotion of library collections. That's an overview of the plan. If you have any questions, be happy to take those.
Are there questions, committee? Yes, Member Griffiths.
A common comment I would have on the body of the document is the absence of clear deliverables in a number of cases. There's a lot of process-related comments, but particularly within the 2026 year, what is to be delivered? I noticed you've got numbers that are carrying over to 2027. But this is the 2026 business plan. And I guess I would question why there aren't more distinct deliverables, particularly those to come to the committee, et cetera. If I can raise that as a first point.
Through the chair, are there specific areas you're looking to get more details on?
Forgot. Things like dynamic programming. There's a whole section which I support fully where the libraries are going to do more work interactively with the township staff and departments. I'd like to see some type of feedback mechanism on that and what is proposed. So it kind of it's built into each one of these sections more or less in terms of what is it exactly that we can expect to see as tangible deliverables out of a number of these processes.
So if I can respond, part of this is research and development. So figuring out what exactly we can do in the way of strengthening those partnerships with our local municipalities. And for dynamic programs specifically, we're looking at that community outreach pilot project as well. So it's a matter of researching where do we need to be, what do we need to do in order to realize this project. And that first one in particular does span a couple of years. It's not just in 2026, it does carry over into 2027 as well.
I guess my confusion is we had the service delivery plan, which has already been published and is out there and highlights a number of these intentions for the library, but I was expecting in the business plan more specific itemization of what would be forthcoming in this year. And so, you know, if anybody's going to be held to account, we at least have a recognition of what is the expected deliverable or report or byproduct of a number of these. That's my personal preference.
Through the chair, I guess we can bring something back at the next meeting with a little bit more detail to maybe help with understanding, if that would help.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Foxton?
And thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, a business plan really does have details. Otherwise, it's just words on paper and money that sits out there. But I must commend Jolene, the representative from North Dumfries, who, through speaking to the library and working with the township staff, have started to run programs in the library. The first one was a famous photographer who came in and showed eagle slides, and within 5 minutes of announcing it, it was filled up with people reserving their spots. So that was a really good initiative. She is going to be stepping up forward to do more within our libraries, working with the township. So things like that we need to see that have a plan. And this, just to say it's a plan, it's nothing unless you have details or some type of strategy. Thank you.
Member Griffiths, were you going to raise your hand again or just move? Yes, go ahead.
Just one other area that maybe just caused me concern from my past experience, but is the library governance section. I question the effort to be undertaken by the operational unit, so to speak, of documenting the committee's work over the last term and achievements and all of that. It sounds like it's, forgive my delicacy on this, but it sounds like a bit of an invasion into the governance role and more than you need or should be doing. I appreciate the training of new committee members, but trying to build a, like commenting on success, achievement, challenges, future focus for the governance, that is really something this committee in and of itself should be doing with whatever support staff we have. In my view, that's the way I would see it. But anyway, I just want to bring that out.
Through the chair. So legacy documents are a fairly regular piece of library governance out in library world. Usually at the end of or nearing the end of the term, there is a document put together between the library board, or in this case, library committee, and staff help to put that document together so that it helps with the transition for any new members coming on and for the existing members who do stay on the library board.
The way you put that was a little bit different from what I was reading here, and that is the fact that it is an integrated effort with the board. I would like to see the board, if in my view, fully represented in whatever type of legacy document or is produced. And if that was your intention, then maybe I misunderstood, but I would certainly want the fingerprints personally of the board on any type of legacy document. And I do appreciate a lot of this is preparatory to new members coming on board. But again, the board should operate within its own sphere in regard to a lot of this. Thank you.
And just to tag on to that, that's a great point that I personally hadn't even flagged, but I do agree. And I guess in terms of the preparing for new library committee member training, that's over the course of 2 quarters I guess I would assume, based off of that it's in Q3, Q4, that would actually be like yourself, Christina, going out and talking to. However, the way it's worded, it looks like it's creating fully new documents when I thought that your recent documents for our new committee members was really great, and I don't really know other than updating policy that we've changed would really require much. So if there could be clarity, and I think that could be part of Member Griffith's requests on what exactly is the business plan trying to achieve. Yes, because my assumption, I'm assuming one thing, but I realize as I'm reading it word for word, it is different than what my assumption actually is. So clarity on there would be great. Any additional comments or questions on the business plan? Seeing none, and I don't know if it would be Julian or Commissioner Regier, but one of you comment on, is there an issue if it's not approved today? The reason I'm asking is I think there's some critical information that has been requested today that deferral might make sense for, but want to understand if there are certain hiccups if we don't approve today.
I don't see any concerns not improving today. I think we're 3 months from 2026. So I think if we approve this at the same time as we approve the budget, I think that'll be fine. I don't know if I'm just gonna see what Julian and Christina think.
No, I agree. I think we can bring this back.
So with that, would there be a motion to defer to our next meeting? Moved by Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Nowak. All those in favor? That carries. On to our other items. We do have our committee council tracking list. Are there any questions or items that the committee deems to be completed or want to see added to this list? Seeing no comments. Okay, we do have our 2026 schedule for our library committee meetings, which is received for information. Were there any questions or issues? I know that our clerk worked very hard to get these dates together for us. Okay, not seeing any. Thank you again very much, Julie, for making it work. I appreciate we all have quite the schedules for you to work around. With that, is there any other business today? Okay, seeing none. Our next library meeting will be on November 13th, and I would look for a mover and a seconder to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Nowak as he's packing up, seconded by Councillor Foxton. All those in favor. That carries unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you in November.